Hello, guys and gals. Me, Mudahar, and you're like, oh, this guy's talking about nerd shit today, man. Come on, Muda, nerdy stuff? No, seriously, stick around, okay? Because today we get to crap down the throats of Google just a little bit, all right, ladies and gentlemen, which I think is actually pretty important. Now, to start off with, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about something that I think we all really use on a day-to-day basis, FFmpeg. Have you ever streamed video? Have you ever streamed audio? Have you ever converted a file? You probably dealt with FFmpeg to some extent, and if you're a content creator like me, on a day-to-day basis. Now, this is a pretty important piece of software, but one thing you have to understand, this is software written by people that are doing it for the love of the game, okay? This is not a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. This is a bunch of passionate people writing software in their free time. Now, has this software been used by multi-billion-dollar corporations? Yeah, you bet it has. And obviously, that is one thing I want you to keep into the back of your head, okay? Now, imagine if you went up to these guys who are already doing it for the love of the game and said, hey, listen, okay, we found a problem. You better fix it. And you know, it's different when you do it to like a big billion-dollar company. You know, it's different when you're dealing with a company that has money, but it's different when you try to impose, you know, sort of like it's different when you impose action upon people that are literally doing it for the love of the game. Anyways, though, so today's controversy for Google comes from something known as Google's Big Sleep. Now, the Big Sleep has been referred to plenty of times as like, you know, death or something, right? Like the Big Sleep. But in Google's mind, it's actually an artificial intelligence that's built upon Project Nap Time. Now, you might be like, what is this shit? Well, you know how artificial intelligence is pretty much everywhere in the world? You can't seem to escape it, and it's been a passionate topic for me because it's crazy to think in 2025, so many things have started incorporating it at this point. Like I'm pretty sure like even the most niche thing in the world now has some LLM involved into it. But anyways, in a lot of ways, I want to make a comparison. LLM models, when it comes to hacking, it's kind of like having a firearm. Now, this is an airsoft pistol, okay? Anytime you've seen this in my videos, this is not a real Glock, okay? Just putting it out for you. The thing about it is obviously I treat firearm safety very real. Any real firearms that I may possess are absolutely inside safes, okay? Ammunition in different safes, okay? That's just how God intended. That's just how the law needs it to be. But I do like playing airsoft. I know that Canada has a bug up its ass about its legality coming up, but I like airsoft, okay? It's a really fun sport. And even with these airsoft guns, they never have BBs or anything in them. But of course, this is not a firearm safety course, okay? You gotta pay hundreds of dollars for that here. The thing about guns is that LLMs are kind of like this, okay? Now, this is a tool at the end of the day, as is artificial intelligence. It just seems that for a lot of hackers, they use the tool for a bad reason. Now, of course, Google decides that they're also going to use this tool to fight back against the hackers. You know, because it's a lot better than bringing a fucking knife, okay? Like, what is this, London? Nah, dude, you're fighting on the mean streets. So Google decides to bring artificial intelligence, and the AI's job here, okay, for anybody who's not getting it, is basically to use the LLM's coding and analysis to identify vulnerabilities in the real world, okay? So in this instance, what Google did was they identified like 20 vulnerabilities. Look, in a day and age where hacking somebody or like, you know, making malware, any kid can do it through AI these days. Phishing emails can be written in such class that even the most astute person will not identify it. Look, we live in a day and age where you can clone your voice and you can synthesize and change it in real time through one easily accessible, like consumer grade GPU. We live in a day and age where you literally can have real time, like webcam. It's a scary day, okay? It's a scary age. So we really need to be able to fight back. And Google is fighting back with their AIs. So the way that this works is the AI's job is to look through all this code, especially in open source stuff, which is written mostly by those volunteers I talked about earlier. So their AI looks through, mind you, this is a multi-billion-dollar company doing this. Their AI looks through and writes a report, right? And then a human being comes by and it's like, they read the report and they're like, oh yeah, shit. Okay, that's a really big problem. Now, the thing about it is, when it comes to any security vulnerability, you then basically go on the phone, you get onto the horn, and you call the company that you found the vulnerability in, right? And you tell them, hey, listen, we found something fucked up. You got to get it fixed. Now, here's where the nuance for the story comes into. Imagine if Google found something really broken in Microsoft's Windows operating system. Something where like a hacker could get access to the most elevated privileges in the easiest fashion. Now, Google gets on the horn and calls up Microsoft and says, "Hey, we found an error. This is the error. Can you fix it?" Now, Microsoft is another multi-billion-dollar fucking company. If Microsoft goes and says, "Yeah, I don't know if we're really going to spend the money to fix it," okay, I don't know if that's going to happen. Then Google's job is like, all right, listen, if you're not going to do anything in 30 days time, we're just going to let the entire public know this is happening. So at least if Microsoft doesn't do anything, you can choose whether to keep using their dog shit or just completely abandon it. Now, the nuance here is what Google did was they decided to go to the company or the group FFmpeg and tell them they found a vulnerability through their AI and you got to fix it. Google didn't decide to go, oh man, we're a multi-billion-dollar company. Let's just maybe send a fucking patch. Nope, not at all. They played Captain Hindsight and basically put it onto the volunteers who work for free for the love of the game on this project. Now, FFmpeg is so into the love of the game that their job isn't about, they don't want to really be the ones that are in there making money, even though they probably could generate serious cash. Their mission is to play every multimedia file in the world. We're proud to accept hobby contributors for obscure 1990s codecs. Their job is to make sure that every form of playable media is preserved. And ultimately, it's through this effort why FFmpeg is so important for anybody who's dealing with video, audio, or anything in general. Now, the actual bug that was found apparently led to a very, very obscure codec that they were on, something that, like, literally nobody was actually being attacked for. Maybe, like, one person based on the law of averages. But yeah, ultimately, the big crux for this, and one of the reasons why I'm actually not on Google's side, is that while, yes, it's good to actually be notifying people that their software has problems in it, ultimately it's shocking to me how anybody is not immediately on the side of the FFmpeg guys, because what Google is doing is just, it's right, but it's also kind of disgusting in a way too. Look, at the end of the day, this is a small hobby group of people, okay? And Google is an entire corporation with billions of dollars in artificial intelligence infrastructure and some of the best security engineers that you could actually find. How Google could not, just say, hey, listen, we're going to tell you that these vulnerabilities exist. We're also going to go and patch these for you or submit things ourselves. If Google had done that, there literally would actually be no controversy. But for the last few days, nerds have literally been fighting on who is in the wrong. And the thing about it is that Google is not necessarily a company that hasn't benefited from this. You're watching this video on YouTube, and while I can't exactly prove if YouTube currently uses things like FFmpeg, according to people that actually write the code, they have kind of led to the assumption that yes, there are actual cases where even YouTube uses the software, right? FFmpeg can decode a number of impossibly obscure multimedia formats. Using code I wrote, YouTube can transcode many of the same formats. And of course, I screwed up when I wrote the code to support some of these weird formats. My mistakes are still present when YouTube transcodes certain fringe formats. Now again, I don't know if YouTube still uses FFmpeg now because it's such a massive project. But remember, a lot of these big companies, a lot of these big corporations use free open source software all the time. Apple being one of them. And Apple, as much shit as you want to give them, contributes back to the space more than, their haters would like to give them credit for. Now, I think it's kind of disgusting that for companies like Google and YouTube specifically that has revenued billions of dollars, Google much more so. If you're going to be the person that points the fingers and says, hey, you're putting people at risk, bro, you're just, in my opinion, as responsible as then sending out somebody and patching things yourself. Now, obviously, Google has notified the guys over at FFmpeg about these issues. And, really FFmpeg's like, look, we'd love to tackle them, but we are a hobby organization. We're literally just a group of people, okay? You can't just be flooding us with this shit and expect us to fix it out of the kindness of our hearts, right? These are people that literally work on this big project that millions of people rely on around the world, entirely for fucking free, literally working off donations, okay? And then Google is just telling them, hey, we found all these issues using our fucking AI. Well, if the AI can point out these issues, I'm sure it can also be used to help identify how to patch said issues, which is something that I really don't understand why people don't give Google more shit in this scenario. It would be one thing if Google was pointing this out, submitting the appropriate patches, and then FFmpeg was still raising a fucking stink about it. But to be real with you, I think it's just disgusting to put this kind of onus onto these companies or onto these like small projects without financially backing them in some way. Now, of course, to give Google some credit in this situation, it's not entirely, out of scope for them to at least financially compensate. If you're somebody that is interested in earning a little bit of fucking money right now, not a little bit actually, 15,000 is not a small chunk of change. If you have the chops for it, you can submit a patch yourself. Remember, underneath Google's Bug Hunter program, if you look at what's literally in their scope, I mean, you can literally see right here, patch rewards right inside here, FFmpeg, in amongst all these other projects are listed. So right over here, if you find any issue, you can in fact submit a patch, and I believe Google will pay you for it. Now again, why Google, if they're going to tell people, listen, you've got problems, bro, go in there and fix it yourself if you're going to point out these issues. Simple as that. Like, goddamn, it's crazy for people to see multi-billion-dollar companies not provide just a tiny tinge back to the upstream in this case, especially when you know that something like FFmpeg has probably mattered a lot when it comes to companies like Google. I would imagine tools like this are used to help stage the training data for some of these big AIs like VO3 that they're using in order to replace YouTube Shorts creators even. So again, I just don't understand why anybody would even consider taking the side of Google in this case or giving shit to volunteer developers this much. Guys, they're volunteer people, okay? All right, they're already working on the software that they're on, okay? Granted, not every piece of software is 100% perfect. That's never going to be the case. And it's great that Google points out some actual glaring issues. But if you're going to point them out and you're the size of Google and you're pointing fingers at the tiny boys, the small little project run by a few people that matters to a lot, at least send some people over or just give them money to actually fix this stuff. It's insane to see Google being like this fucking insane about it. And it's crazy to see that people are giving shit to a group of people like this, to like hobby developers that literally are, people are saying they're crashing out over this, and I don't really see the crash out. I really don't understand it. These people are absolutely being bombarded for no real reason. When Google could absolutely provide back, they could have absolutely done the bare minimum to assist them on something that they consider serious. Simple as that. Like, it would be one thing if they pointed out, like I said, to Microsoft and Microsoft refused to fix something. Then you have a pretty serious issue. It's a big company that deals and actually charges for their products in a pretty substantial way from the end user all the way to like the big corporate guys. But again, pointing fingers at people that are doing hobby code and again, flooding them with this kind of stuff without even providing just a modicum of assistance is actually disgusting to me. And it's something that, I don't want Google to keep doing. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.